Hey guys, what's up? Stoltec Moto here for an update, track update for our 2022 Yamaha YZF-R7. We've been busy over the past month doing a ton of different work on a bunch of different parts, and I'm pretty pleased with the progress we're making. So I want to go over that here for you guys today. Those of you guys who are looking to make a build similar, or if you're waiting on your bikes, we can go over some of the things that we've done. So I'm going to start off with some of the first, most obvious things. We got a set of Gripster tank pads here from Tech Specs. This is a prototype pre-production, so this was actually sort of cut by hand. It's going to look a little different, obviously, once it's in production, but this is the general layout. So really great coverage. There's a lot of room there to hang your leg off as you're, at full lean on the bike. Good protection up here from scratching. That was one of the things that I wasn't crazy about from before. The paint scratch is very easy. You just like one track day last time, and there was a lot of scuffing. So really good stability on the braking, good leverage as you're hanging off. For those of you guys who have used this product before, you understand what I mean. For those who haven't, give it a shot. It's a really great product. We should have these on our website shortly, but really great kit, good for the track, excellent for, and if you're on the street, I would say it's good for your mountains and your canyons as well. So good stuff right there. Next thing that's a little bit obvious here, we have a GPR V5 prototype steering stabilizer. We thought this would be easier than it was. We kind of assumed that we could take the mount from the MT-07. Unfortunately, the frame is just enough varied from the MT-07 with the reduced rank angle and some production tolerances. So this ended up being a lot more work than it looks like, but this is kind of version 3 of the prototype, and it's the first time on the track with it. It's working very well. We do have to update the curves for damping. Still, I think there's a bit much damping, so we have it in like the lower settings right now, but it's still working very well, and with some of the other changes that I'll talk about, it's definitely nice to have for the racetrack. So stay tuned on this. We'll have this updated here on the website as soon as it's ready, but that's a pretty cool part that we're pretty pleased with. So up front, some of the parts you really can't see. You can see our little sticker there. We've been doing a ton of work on the forks. This is probably version 3 of our revalve. I'm very pleased with it. I think this is an excellent canyon build right now. It'll definitely take you to an advanced group track day. It's not what I would consider a race spec. It's definitely a little softer, but you could still have an awful lot of fun on the racetrack. And if you watched our last video, you might have noticed that we used up almost all of the fork travel on this track. And this is a short track. You're only doing about 100 miles an hour. And it's not really hard braking, but the forks were just very soft. So we'll update another video with what we did on the forks, but I'll just say that we got some heavier springs in there. We've adjusted the fork oil, which we're still playing with. And we have some new pistons and new shimming, new needles. So that's working very well. There's an awful lot of confidence on the brakes, which is wonderful because that was one of the things that was just hard to handle last time. We also changed out the pads, went from the OEM pads, which are decent for the street. They're not an HH pad, so we went up to my personal favorite, which is what we sell almost exclusively, are the Galfer 1375 compound pads. These are a great pad for the track or the street, and it's not often that you could say that. If you were doing expert level road racing, I probably wouldn't start here, but for those who are not expert level, these work really well for the street and the track. It's very progressive once there's heat in them, but it's not as progressive as the factory stuff, which was good because that was just kind of hard to modulate. But it's not going to throw you over the handlebars when you first grab them, but it definitely really builds in nicely once you get some heat in there. So very happy with those pads. The rotors are faring pretty well for these speeds. Again, this is not a fast track, so we'll see how that goes once we get on something faster here, perhaps tomorrow. But right now, between the new pads and the fork work, I mean, honestly, this thing steers and brakes with a lot more stability and composure. Very happy with it. One of the things we talked about last time was the rebound damping. We had to turn that thing just about all the way in to control the factory springs. That obviously is not good because it starts to wallow on the racetrack and it's hard to hold a line. And once you go up with a heavier spring, it's going to make it even worse. So The valving definitely helped. We are much closer to the midpoint now. Still might make a couple changes, but honestly, very good for the street, very good for the canyons, mountains, and certainly for a novice intermediate into the advanced group. If you're expert level, or you might be looking at something else anyway from like a full cartridge kit, but honestly, this will get the job done. So very happy with that. We'll definitely keep you guys posted as we go. Still running the OEM rubber lines right now. I do wish that the lever were tighter. That hasn't changed, but between the suspension updates and the new pads, I could definitely live with it. So we'll see how it goes. That'll probably be something that we work on after the track season is over, just because of the amount of time it takes to get that stuff right. But right now they are OEM. I mentioned last time we have the Woodcraft frame sliders here. These are the same thing as the MT-07. Really great. They're going to protect your frame, your tank, radiator, and they're a proven product. A whole bunch of reasons why we really love the Woodcraft stuff, but we have those and they're available for sale up on our website now. What you won't see right now is going to be the engine cover for the clutch side. The clutch cover is different. When Yamaha changed to the slipper clutch, things are a little different, and there's not a lot of clearance between the fairing and the water pump, which is where that used to go. So we'd obviously prefer for that protector to touch down before the fairing, so we got to relook at this, and it's just a matter of time, but we'll get to that. So we're going to hope for the best. We're going to try and keep it obviously rubber side down, but we will have something for the clutch side as well. Moving out back here, and I guess I skipped over the front. We got the axle sliders. I mentioned that last time. Minor changes here, but they are available up on the website now. Really great product. They're easy to install and to uninstall, especially for you guys who use stuff like the Pitbull trailer restraints. Only takes a couple minutes and it comes off and on. We did take off the passenger pegs, which was obviously to save some weight. Eventually we're going to relocate this just to clean it up, and that'll be something that we do a bit later. You can see in there we got something red and fancy, and that's going to be our Penske prototype shock. That is an 8983 twin clicker. Don't mind the mounting scheme here. That is not what we're going to go to production with. We do have to make a couple more changes. It does kind of interfere with where the foot pegs are right now, but just to get some road testing and some track testing, we put it where we did. It's very similar to what we did on the MT-7. A couple minor changes. The shock length has been adjusted a bit, which I'm pretty happy with. We are going to do some more changes, as I said, to move this back with a new billet mount, so stay tuned for that. But between front and rear suspension, honestly, this bike is what I wanted it to be. From the factory, very capable, very easy to ride, definitely awesome value, but I did feel that as the pace was up, certainly for somebody north of 200 pounds in gear like myself, it just ended up being a handful. So this is definitely closer to a proper sport bike. It is definitely not a race bike right now, but that wasn't the intent. So we'll get to that build later, but right now this is what I would consider that fast canyon or mountain track day build. So very good setup there. Quite happy with that shock. We've got a couple more things that we'll do to it, but this is a sign of good things to come. The engine right now is bone stock, which is going to stay that way for a while, but we did add the Yamaha factory accessory quick shifter. Great kit. It installs well. They include all the brackets. I mean, obviously, as you'd expect, all the cables, wiring are very OEM grade because they are. It's the same setup that you'll find on the MT9s, MT10s, R1s, and all that. So it's just an up shifter, not a down shifter. That's not possible right now because it's not a throttle-by-wire bike, but this works really well. And honestly, for 200 bucks, I felt like this needed to come on the bike from the factory. It's an easy installation. If you're going to be at the racetrack, I would just do it. It's definitely something that is kind of normal these days to have on a sport bike anyway. I enjoy blipping to downshift, so it's not a big deal with the auto blipper, not having it, I should say. Some guys would love that, but it's just not going to happen on this bike. But really good part. That's definitely transformed it for the better. Very happy with that. Over here we got the Woodcraft engine cover for the stator side. This is off the MT-7, exactly the exact same part. Not much to say there, but it's been crash tested many times on our MT-7 customers, so very good product. It'll definitely keep you safe on the street or the track, and we're very happy to have that. So what else did we do here? We covered the brakes, we covered the front forks, the valving, still on the OEM tires, S22s. Not my personal favorite, but it gets the job done. Definitely getting a little bit of a howl out of the front on some of the entrances, but with the right pressures, they work pretty well. So hot pressure right now running somewhere between 29.5 and 30 hot on the front and 29 on the rear. That's been pretty good. Life has been nice. This is the second track day. There's still some more life left here. You can obviously see that we're running the warmers. You do not need to run warmers on these tires. As a matter of preference, I do, primarily because I find that it helps lengthen the service life of the tire at the racetrack. You don't get as much bluing. They just tend to stick better long term for more track days. And it's also easier to set your hot tire pressure, so you can get it closer before you get out there. And if you time it right, you could just kind of roll onto the track with warm tires, and a couple turns later you're up to speed. So we run those not because you need to, but if you're running a better track day tire or a slick, this bike is really going to rip. So very pleased with everything so far. The rest of the bike is more or less stock, other than the suspension, steering stabilizer. We will get into some of the engine tuning, probably do something with an exhaust, save some weight at some point here for some other parts as well. So we got some other things that we're cooking up, but wanted to give you guys an update there. So we're going to try and get some good footage for you here today. Hopefully the GoPro's working for us. I got some hit or miss luck with these things, but if we can get it to work, I'll drop it in this video and stay in touch. We'll have more updates as we go before the season's wrapped up, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. So until next time, ride safe and enjoy this footage. Hey guys, one last edit here. I normally try to do this in one take, but I missed something. You'll notice that we are using the factory rear sets, and it's not because we didn't want to try something a little bit more track oriented, but unfortunately Yamaha changed the mounting hole pattern on the brackets. So the Woodcraft components that we have in stock that we normally use, unfortunately, are not going to mount up. So we're going to work on that stuff here shortly. We just didn't want to waste too much time during the riding season, especially since this bike was released midsummer. So once the track season is over, we're going to get onto this, and then we'll get some more parts out here. The good news is once you take off the peg feelers, not any clearance problems. We're not dragging toes anywhere. There's still more clearance there. I will say that we did find the reason why the peg feelers are so long, and that's the side stand. You'll notice that we just started today to kind of touch down a little bit. So as we improve the suspension, able to go a little bit deeper in those corners, lean over a bit more, and we're dragging this. So for some of you guys, just something to be aware of. You might want to take the side stand off for your track days if it's a street bike. If it's a race bike, obviously you're going to take it off. The other thing I would mention, is that I said earlier, the spring rates that we're using are fast canyon, mountain, or I would say light track duty, right? So this is not a race bike setup. If you were going to completely have this thing ready for the track and not the street, you'd go with some heavier springs still, which would bring the bike up a little bit higher in its stroke, mid-corner where the centrifugal loading is there, right? So I don't think it's the end of the world, but just something to be aware of if you guys are trying to go a blend of street and track. You might have some of that happen. So it was never scary, but it's something that just be prepared for so it doesn't catch you off guard. So little minor tip there, and we'll get on to the footage.